All right, we're live.
We are live.
Live and about to go rogue. I love it.
You know what? The only way to be.
You know it. Well, how's your week been?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Two separate words. Uh, and amazing. Yeah, it's just been an astonishing. I've learned so much, and I've grown so much, and I've had just really wonderful, wonderful interaction. It's funny at this time of year, New Year's, uh, people get introspective and they actually go in and they start speaking from their heart,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they talk about what they really want, and what they really appreciate about the previous years and what they wish they had done, and then setting themselves up for what they're going to do this year. So awesome, awesome.
Yeah. It's been a tough week in sports.
It has been a brutal week, and I'll tell you, it just leaks over in everybody, because everybody can relate
Mhm.
to that was just nothing. It was just a straight up tackle, and all of a sudden the guy is down, and it's in front of everybody, and you can go, that's my son, that's my brother, that's my whatever. And then it turns out that he's such an amazing guy, and he's up to such good things, and he's so solid in his family,
Mhm.
and his parents were in the stadium and so on like that. It's just oh.
Yeah, it's been tough, right? So one of my
Yep.
passions obviously is mentoring athletes and
Yeah.
being a former pit athlete, it hits home a little bit different, but
Yep.
you hit on a couple of things that I am extremely passionate about, and that's
Yes.
around being more than an athlete. We're human beings, right? And in
Yes.
an instance, things can change. And launching a Dear Athlete series on the data relative to like concussions, different injuries, body deterioration, the mental health, suicides. It's needed.
Well, it hits two pillars. It hits one of your major pillars, which is going pro in life,
Mhm.
really being pro in life, and it hits one of my major pillars, which is health,
Mhm.
which is like, really, what is my purpose, and health and courage. So both of us, it's just like right at the foundation of what it is that we think is important for people to know and do.
Yeah, and I want the conversation to become more proactive. We're always reactive when some instance happens in anything in life, and it has to be so dramatic of an incident like what happened on Monday to drive
Yeah.
people to get upset and frustrated. But this isn't the first, right? I mean, there's been a wide array of different things that have happened that we need to change the dialogue and not only create the knowledge base, but action the knowledge that we establish at the table, right? Have the radical candor, not agree on everything, but figure out what is the solution set needed. And I'm passionate about it. I'm going to be the voice of the community. I will do everything in my power to help. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, it goes beyond something like it's a gig. It really is a calling.
Mhm.
And I mean, everything that we do, you do, and I do, and the people that are, we're not the only ones, but the people that are actually making a difference out there, it really has become a vocation and a calling, and we have a vision for it, and we really see that our mission is today, and what we're really up to, working with what we are. And what I really like about what you said, Sammy, is the idea about being proactive about it.
Mhm.
Because the league can do nothing but be reactive. It's just like, oh, this is a horrible thing. Okay, let's go down and see what we can do, and see if we could put something in, change a rule, do a thing like that. And you say, yeah, but meanwhile, there's somebody's life is at stake in this, and it happens over and over and over again, and it happens at the high school level as well as at the pro level. So this is something that is really a key vocational kind of thing, that not only for us, but we want to get the players involved, and we want to get the management involved, and we want to get the coaches involved. We want to get all of the organizational structure around it involved in that. First, last, and always, we have to really deal with the safety of our participants, and it's not a safe game to play.
Yeah. Oh, and it's all sports, right? I mean,
All
athletes,
sports, it doesn't
and
matter.
it goes into something that I really want to talk about today. And it's
Okay,
about being boxed in, right?
being boxed in.
How do
Okay, yeah.
you break through just being that role or whatever you're in currently? And how do you think beyond and get others to see you also beyond? Because, for example, athletes, we're looked at as athletes. We're looked at that we have it all, right? That, hey, you're getting paid to do your sport. You have all the attention, you have some fame, but we're a brother, we're a sister, we're, a child, we're a friend, right? We're a human being, right? That is more than just a sport. That sport is our vehicle, right?
Yep.
And it also is
Well,
a
not only
career.
that, Sammy, not only that, but this being breaking out of being boxed in is really, really particularly difficult for the participant, the athlete themselves, because what got them where they are is that they boxed themselves in. They
Exactly.
actually they actually said, I'm going to go where I'm going to go. And I've got a vision and I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to do the parties and I'm not going to do the drugs and I'm not going to do and I'm going to do what it takes to get me to go where I want to go. And of course, where they're seeing they want to go is where they want to be when they're 23, 24, 25,
Yeah.
maybe into their 30s, and then it's going to be over with. How do you break that? What was your winning formula to get you to where you are? How do you actually see that, notice that, let go of that, transcend that, and get yourself back in and going by breaking out of the box that you constructed for yourself in order to be successful?
Yeah. So one of the things, for me in particular, right, I've internalized and reflected on this quite a bit. I had played sports since I was 4 years old, competitive at 8, traveling the
Mm-hmm.
world, didn't have a summer until I was like in my late 20s. And I didn't think I was giving up anything. It was my life. Like
Yeah.
sports was my life. I didn't see outside of that. It was my identity. It was everything that made me happy, helped me overcome adversity. It was like my end all be all. It really was. But it was interesting, right? So it came out of the Olympics. There were certain dramatic events and experiences that happened that said, "Hey, you don't really have an alternative." So that was one thing that kind of was a fuel and mechanism for me.
Yes. Yes. Very important.
Another one I would say that I found myself dealing with was when I was done, like my last game, and I knew there was no trajectory to the next level. Let's call it the Olympics and or playing pro profitably.
Right.
It was the fact that I hung my cleats up from a physical standpoint,
Yep.
and I didn't throw a ball probably for 10 years.
I can't tell you how much I'm relating to this, but you keep going, and then I'm going to share something with you about me.
Yeah, so that was the actual physical thing, and I didn't feel like I gave the sport up, just like I didn't feel like I gave my personal life up when I was in sport. And it was kind of like that evolution of the plight of an athlete and understanding that although the physical hanging up of the cleats happened,
Yes.
I was forever an athlete. And then what I did was I broke through the boxed in feeling of what an athlete means, and I created, right, my mentality to say, hold on a minute. Just because I'm hanging the cleats up doesn't take my mindset and all the experiential skills that I amassed my whole entire career. That doesn't just throw away. How do I leverage that for that
Yep.
next phase?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that
Yep. Yep. Yep.
happened after I had my identity crisis right after undergrad. And I said, this is either going to consume me or I'm going to conquer it. Those were two paths. That was it. That's the way I saw it.
It was going to consume me. What is it that exactly is going to consume you?
My identity crisis. Like I didn't know who I was outside. Either I was going to let that
Because
weight consume me and
once an
define me.
athlete, always an athlete.
Yeah, I didn't see my life outside of it. I saw myself with a fancy chemistry degree and no work experience to even know where to start.
Well, in a sense, what you're saying is, okay, so there you were, an athlete with a chemistry degree.
Yeah.
So what?
Right. And the economy had collapsed. There were a lot of
Yeah,
factors that were going
exactly.
on at the time I graduated as well. So for me, it got to that point where every athlete gets to say, look, it's going to be hard to get to this level. I know it's going to be hard. Or say you have a bad practice, or say you have a multitude of events that happen that lead for you to, be on injury reserve, or you didn't get back fast enough on the field, right? In your mind, you start to create compartments, right? To say, okay, hold on a minute. I'm going to let my anxiety that I'm feeling go to the back. Now I'm going to be very objective here. Either I can do this or I don't do this. If I don't do this, these are my outcomes. If I do this and go all in, like I know how to do, then
Right.
these are the set of outcomes that come as well. Right. But the issue becomes, right, that you still compartmentalize the anxiety piece, all the fear that you have. Like, so that's a lot of times why athletes go for the risk, because we know how to put the stuff that limits others that don't play sports, because they deal with it at the front, because it's in their.
Well, we know how to use that anxiety and that fear to motivate us to go, it's like over, under, around, and through. The only way there is through.
Yeah, but people who don't play sports, a lot of times they won't even take the first step because their anxiety
Oh,
pulls them. Whereas an
exactly.
athlete will
Exactly.
compartmentalize, put it to the back, get it done, and then the issue we have is we never bring it back to reflect on. And
You
then
know, well,
it's heavy.
what you run into is you run into those people. You're at the end of your career and you're going to dinner on your career with people,
Mhm.
and they want to hear the stories. And one of the things that you have to endure is, I always wanted to be a ball player. I always wanted to be a dancer. I always wanted to be, and they didn't. And you
Mhm.
have to kind of endure that from people who didn't transcend the fear and put the work in and so on like that. And yet what you're facing right now is what's the wannabe you are right now that you're not doing.
Yeah.
Brutal,
It is. It's
brutal. Well, it was brutal the first time and you were young and you were healthy and that's all you wanted to do. And now it's the second time and you don't even know what the deal is in front of you and you got to do it again.
Yeah, and it's this is what's interesting for me in particular, and then I'd love to hear your story about like your plight as an athlete. But
So,
so,
same thing,
so
same thing.
the thing that's interesting here is, right, like I hung up the cleats, or I hung up the social life to start. Then I hung up the cleats, let's call it, and
Right.
then I hung up, right,
Your career.
the corporate athlete.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so say something about that.
So I always deal with day ones. I always deal with, I love ambiguity. I love change. I like the white sheet of paper that you can create your own. Some people love it,
Okay,
some people don't. So when I
right,
was in corporate America, I was afforded white sheets of paper, created every role I've ever been in. Very
right.
unique experience set. But as I started to run business, as I started to get into merger acquisitions and be at these tables that most people would die to be at, that I was afforded and earned to be in that room and sit at the table. I started to
Well, okay,
realize,
so I'm gonna actually stop you for a second and have
okay,
you go back one step.
okay,
Okay, because there was a mental leap of faith or of just I'm gonna get it done that happened between I've retired, I've hung up the cleats, and now I'm kind of sitting here wondering what the hell's the next thing to do. And okay, I got my first job. Now, somewhere between there, and it wasn't the job out there,
mm-hmm.
because the job out there was the job out there. It was something that happened between your ears that had you go, uh, you know what? I'm going to go from being the victim of the circumstance here to being actually master of my own fate and
Mm-hmm.
going after the job, whatever the job is. It doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the job is. Talk about what happened, what went click with you as an athlete that was transitioning.
Yeah, so for me it was so straightforward. It was, I know what I bring to the table. I know
Uh-huh.
my leadership. I know my controllables. I know what I can bring to a table. All I need is the door. So that was always my mindset. All I
You knew all of that because you had actually proven all of that to yourself in your prior career as an athlete.
Oh yeah, without question.
Okay. So now you said, okay, now a lot of that is transferable. I can actually take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I can take whatever. It doesn't matter what the open future is in front of me. Whatever I step into, I can bring leadership, I can bring capability, I can bring intelligence, I can bring creativity, and I can bring grit.
Yeah. So for me, the grit was big. And the other thing was handling ambiguity. So
Handling
I have
ambiguity.
a lot of situational leadership, right? So in game, there were things that were going on. The emotions were high, low. I know how to manage my reactivity and response. I knew
Right.
that others fed off of what I portrayed.
Right.
People look to me, right, to help change the trajectory of something negative going on. Like I understood those roles that I didn't even
You
sign up
knew
for, but I
you knew that whatever, wherever, whatever, and whenever. So whatever, whenever, why ever, you knew in all of those cases, no matter what, you're the person that people look to anyway.
yeah.
Okay.
And every leadership assessment that I've ever taken in my life,
Yeah.
it's funny because they're all consistent. I don't care what methodologies they use.
Right.
It always comes out very clear that others look to me to lead because of my
Okay.
presence, because of my results, because I care, because I bring others along, right? But I don't always go, right, to be the leader,
Right.
chosen leader. I walk into the roles that are needed and required, not just to be the center of attention.
Wow. 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 I had an occasion in my life where I was playing a game, and the game was a life and death game. It's called the Samurai game.
Okay.
Actually, there's about 50 people in the world that are facilitators, and I'm one of them for the Samurai game. And the Samurai game is a game that it's set in 16th century Japan, and you
Okay.
are a samurai, and you're going to go to war, and you're going to die. And you've got a number of people on your side, and somebody else has a number of people on their side. And the very first thing you do is you form armies. So Army of the North, Army of the South.
Yep.
The second thing you do is everybody is there, and it's like you choose your leader.
Mm-hmm.
And when I played the game, I had 50 some people on my game, on my side. I was with 50 people, and they said, and I didn't know it, but they said, okay, now choose your leader. And we had about 3 minutes, and I knew I was the leader. I knew I was the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fascinating to watch. Everybody turned around and looked at me, and the biggest guy, the greatest samurai, knelt down in front of me.
Wow.
And everybody knelt down. And I'm, well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a certain knowingness
Mm-hmm.
about your leadership capability that if you actually honor that, interesting things can happen.
Of course, and it's the difference between true authentic leadership
Yes.
and quest for power and authority. I don't need power and authority. It doesn't wake me up
No,
in the middle
no,
of the night.
it's not that interesting.
It's not. To others, it is, right? I understand people equate money with power and influence, fine. But for me to drive true fulfillment, right? That's beyond success in my
That's the
life.
word. That's the word,
It,
fulfillment.
it is all about empowering, amplifying, and raising the bar, not only for myself, but
Yes.
for others to be better than me. So now it forces me to come up.
You know, what you're saying has such truth psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
So Freud said that it's all about, a search for happiness. Well, Jung said that it's all about success and power.
Mm-hmm.
Frankl said, no, the Freudian thing about happiness is juvenile. The idea that what it is about success and power is adolescent, and you should outgrow that. He said, grown up, mature, fully realized human beings, which is he was interested in working with, are all about the fulfillment of meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what you're pointing to. Is like, you know what? Having success as an athlete is one thing, and winning and winning and winning and winning. Now, can we mature past that? Is there life past that? Can we actually get into fulfillment and meaning? That's what the next opportunity is. The next opportunity is, how do we fulfill meaning in our lives?
Yeah, and for me, that's empowering others, right? But
Exactly.
it's also pouring into someone's tank to give them enough fuel
Mm-hmm.
for them to kickstart it. I don't need to turn it on. They already
God,
have.
I love that. I just love that. It's
Yeah.
like you say, because people are running on fumes. When we get to them and they're at the end of their career and they've had to retire and they don't know what's next, they're running on fumes. And I always feel like I say something almost very much like what you just said, that idea of pouring enough fuel in there that you can kickstart and get them going. I am like looking for the pilot light, turning the pilot light on, setting them on fire, and then pouring gas on them.
Little different, little different.
Well, that's the way I see it for myself. But that's where I get,
Yeah.
because that's what I call, that's truly empowering somebody,
Yeah.
lighting them up.
Yeah, and it's a responsibility, right? Once
Oh, yeah.
others look to you, and it's a responsibility that you don't get days off on, right? So it's the concept of success is never ending, right? So you create these levels that once you hit, it's like, okay, well, now I want to go to the next thing. What's the next thing, right? And that's the concept of being boxed in, because when you feel you lose that, right? Oh, like you're in a corporation, right? I went
Yep.
from a highly matrixed organization, $40 billion company, to a $1.5 billion company that was very flat, right? So that means I was one from the CEO in the $1.5 billion company. And at the $40 billion company, I was pretty removed, right? I may have interfaced, right? But on my day to day, I was not talking to the CEO of Honeywell International. Like I just wasn't, right? No. And what happens with sometimes flat organizations, or even in highly matrixed, number one, in highly matrixed environments, if you don't find who you are, the brand, within the common corporate vision, you can get lost in the ocean. So that's one thing. And then in a $1.5 billion company that's a little bit more flat oriented, you literally may not have places to go vertically. And you may have too much ego to want to go horizontally, or there's no rules or roles that give you the critical skill sets that you need to develop.
Right.
Right. Which then leads to you being boxed in. And if we kind of bring from our past conversations, right, what stage, what part are you living into, right? Are you at a stage 4? Are you at a stage 3? Well, I definitely am proud to say I'm a stage 4 with periods of stage 5. I don't always stay in stage 5, obviously, but I pride myself in focusing on being a stage 4 person through and through every day.
That's, by the way, that's where the money is all the time. If we could just get that across, that what there is to do is to actually give up being boxed in at stage 3.
Yeah.
And taking on the vision and the responsibility and the dignity and the respect that it takes, and the communication and the relationship that it takes to actually stabilize yourself at stage 4, you're going to have those stage 5 opportunities.
Of course, right? But you're never always going to stay in stage 5. So,
No, stage 5 is a visitation.
That's exactly it. But what happens is like when you get into an environment where you feel boxed in, and I don't have another role, right? I've put 5 years, different things for performance development. Like I didn't have performance development saying, hey, Sam, these are the outlets that you could do. right? Now I felt boxed into the fact that I was running about $150 million, $150 million business very well. We were growing. We managed through the lows. We have higher highs, all the stuff that you would want. It became so darn easy that I
Yep.
could do could do it in my sleep, to the point where I was just doing busy work, and now my tank is empty. I'm not doing fulfilling things. I'm running in place, and I feel boxed in.
Oh my God. It's like, it's funny. You say it that way and you talk about you could do it in your sleep. I say upside down drunk in the dark, you know, and it's like, and there you are, and your tank is empty, and there's nowhere to go. There's no vision. There's no future. There's nothing out there that you're growing or being called towards.
Yeah.
You
And
know, so what are you going to do?
yeah, and look, the company was great, right? And they were in the midst of
Yeah.
transformation, all of that, which is great stuff. But there was a bigger calling for me that I had to listen to. And you can't do things halfway, right? That's not how I'm built. That's not how you're built. We're all in,
No.
all forward fast, period.
Listen, my mentor, a guy named Jerome Downs, he said, when you give up on the possibility, that is your vision. When you give up on the possibility, you settle for the goodies. And that's what was so tantalizing about being in the flat $1.5 billion corporation, where the people were great and the life was great, and you were driving a nice car and you were doing this and you were, running things and so on like that, but no future available beyond kind of the natural organic growth of the company.
Yeah. Well, and there's a change management happening, right? With any transformation, not everyone's going to understand it. Helping to vocalize the vision more. Like there were
Right.
things that I tried to do that,
Sure.
was at the beginning infancy stages of a rollout. And I understand there's certain ways to do change management, but I also believe in putting the pedal down and let's
Thank
be
you.
transparent, right? Let's not just
Thank you.
have process for process sake. And
Yeah.
I got to the point where I said, hold on a minute, this thing over here that is kind of a hobby for me, that's not a hobby. Like this is a need. This is my purpose on this earth. Why am I using this
There you go.
hobby?
There you go. So again, going to Franklin, the adult thing, it's like its success is actually insufficient to where I want to go in life, which is the fulfillment of meaning.
Yeah. So what would you say, John, in terms of, someone feeling boxed in? Like I had something happening in parallel path, right? So I was mentoring athletes, and then, I had a couple of athletes, constantly say, you need to be doing this full time, right? So I kind of had that in the back, right?
Right.
How would you help someone see beyond the box that they're in, and like what are the steps that you would recommend for them to kind of step out?
Wow, what a great question. Well, the first one is, I would say, in the first one is you really have got to make a deal with yourself that you're going to be honest through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so telling the truth to yourself, it doesn't matter what other people say. In fact, I wouldn't really be soliciting a lot of outside opinions at this time, unless it's somebody that I could absolutely trust to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And that means tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly. But so the first thing is go inside, take a look and examine yourself on the level of what are the internal moral virtues that I have to honor. And the internal moral virtues are always in the area of courage, temperance, justice, and prudence. In the world that is given by the virtues, that is the practice of the habit of choosing the mean between the extremes of too little and too much in the matter of our emotions and our actions. Where am I about courage? Too little cowardice, too much. So you got to start there.
Yep.
You got to start with courage And you've really got to take a look emotionally. It's like, what do I like too much? What am I unwilling to give up? That's temperance. What is it that I actually need to be practicing that maybe I don't like to be practicing? And because temperance has to do with our emotional addictions, so like that. And justice, what is the right thing in terms of my actions and my emotions? Is this the right thing? Is this a just thing? Is this the thing that's actually going to pay off, not just for me, but it has to pay off for everybody around me, everybody that I touch. So
Mm.
like that. And then prudence. How do I choose to make my choices? How do I manage the information that comes in such a way that, okay, it's useful and I can make a choice about it. So you've got to look, and you have to begin a process that you didn't necessarily have to do as an athlete,
Mhm.
but it is inside out. It is really looking at asking the questions of, who am I? What is my purpose? What is my highest aim? Who are my partners? What are we building? And finally, who do we touch?
Yep.
Really kind of, I'd say that's where you need to go, and you need to dwell. Dwell means to live with. You need to dwell in that conversation. You need to dwell in it, kind of like you would take on something that was, uh, people start meditating a lot during this period of time, generally, and they don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of sitting there and watching the day go by and so on like that. But actually dwelling in those 5 questions and dwelling in the 4 moral virtues, sort of like that, and telling yourself the truth, and then looking at some mentor or some truth teller in your life who actually you can reflect it with. Great tennis players don't become great tennis players unless when they were 10 years old and 11 and 12 and 14 years old, they were out there and they were hitting the ball against the garage. And the ball was coming back exactly the way they sent it to the garage. The ball. So
Mhm.
you put topspin on it and it's going to come back and it's going to be weird when it bounces. And
Yep.
you got to do that. And tennis players do that for hours and hours and hours. Well, that's what a great mentor is. That's what a great truth teller, I'm going to say it more than a mentor, a great truth teller is. They are the garage door that you throw it out and they spin it right back to you, and you got to handle that and rally in the game.
Yeah, I like that.
And
I like the truth teller, the garage door. And it's
yeah,
interesting that you said mentor. So one of the things, so I couldn't agree more. I
yeah,
couldn't agree more with not only your start, but the introspective aspect, the reflection upon the questions you talked about, and very much rooted in what are you designing
you
your
know,
life like?
and the thing about it is, I have not been asked that question before, so I actually fumbled my way around trying to figure out what would I say. What would I say? So thank you for that question, because you have actually, you've been such a great garage door on on,
Goes both
on that.
ways.
Yeah, just extraordinary. That's such a useful question for me to use everywhere in my life as a consultant.
Yeah, and same for me, right? Because as I am trying to help athletes figure
Mm,
out who they are outside of the game,
hmm
they are the brands, right? So what does
mm,
that really mean? Well, that means you need to know, right? Who am I?
hmm
What is my purpose? Who are my
hmm
partners? What are we building, right?
hmm
And who are we going to touch? I mean, that is what a brand evolution is.
I think so. I agree.
Right?
I absolutely am committed to that idea.
And there is no one size fits all to it, and then there may be a different way that you kind of craft that brand, fine, but you're always going to hit those questions. You're always
Yes.
going to talk about courage, temperance, justice, and prudence. Like, you're going to hit it whether or not you talk about the word itself. Like, you will reflect in that space. It's just like a good way to think about it during an injury. Okay, So when I broke my,
During an injury. Yeah, did you say during an injury?
yeah, during an injury. So
Perfect.
for example,
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yes.
when they thought I broke my C1 in my spine,
Oh,
okay?
got it. Yes.
At first, I didn't feel any pain because my body went through a shock. Then it went into fight or flight mode, right? Don't tell my mom, call my professor, oh, take care of, everyone else. Then it became, oh, wow, this is serious. Oh, everything's okay to everything's not okay. The emotional up and down. And you just go on this roller coaster. This is not going to be some steady bump free ride. This is going to be
Oh,
comfortable.
good Lord. This is the monkey mind adventure right here.
Oh, yeah. And this is why people in general don't endeavor down a fully reflective journey because they don't want to deal with parts that are uncomfortable. But
Right.
that's where the real magic is. That's where the fulfillment comes because you have that one on one and you can't hide from yourself. You,
Right. 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 Right.
you
Right.
can't. So that's super awesome. And, I will tell you, I wrote down 3 quotes as ever. I'm always thinking about the boxed in concept and how I reflect on, you said this so eloquently before, right? Living your life like a work of art. So I've internalized that from like our first time ever meeting. And I've been
Right.
building upon what that means to me, right? And how I'm living my life intentionally with it. So these are
Yes.
three quotes that I thought were pretty interesting. So the first one is from William Shakespeare. And it's not strange that desire should so many years outlive performance.
Whoa. Wow. 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 You know, Bill was a smart guy,
Wasn't he?
wasn't he?
Beyond his time.
He had a way with the words.
Evergreen. Like he's evergreens, but it's insane. So that was one, and we'll reflect on them. The other
Right.
one was I am seeking for the bridge which leans from the visible to the invisible through reality.
Wow. Who said that?
That's Max Beckman. Beckman, German artist. He was an expressionist, but what I liked about him was he hated the boxed movement of being an expressionist, so he always rejected it.
Oh, that's great. So Max Beckman. Wow. Never heard of him. I got to check him out.
Yeah, he's a modernist, German artist,
Ah,
1884.
wow.
And I might butcher her name, and I hope I don't. So correct me if you know. Shazia Sikander, and she's a Pakistani American visual artist. She does writing, sculpture, multitude of different mediums, and she talked about not to be boxed in, to be able to transcend boundaries for an artist is essential.
Yes. Truth, truth, truth. Truth, truth, truth. Now go back and say the Shakespeare thing again after you've said that about not to be boxed in for an artist is essential.
It is not strange that desire should so many years outlive performance.
Mm, mm.
What does that mean to you? When you hear that, what is that, one line, what does it mean to you?
Well, it's my life. It's like after my career as a dancer was over with, it's like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Because like you're an athlete like me. I was a dancer, and I'll tell you, at the end of my career, my realization was it was my DNA.
Mhm.
It was like I don't have a choice about it, and whatever it is that I've done since then, and I've had several careers since then. My deal was, well, I'm doing this career, but I'm doing this career through the expression of what I am as a dancer, who I am as a dancer. And even though I had to break the box to go to the next level and to do what I do now, you know, being on faculty and leadership academies around the world, what? Where, someone once said, I heard it. background, we're talking about a woman named Gwen Verdon. And Gwen Verdon was married to Bob Fosse, and she was the inspiration for Bob Fosse. And she did something, fixed something on a Carol Burnett show that I was doing, and I heard the set designer was complaining, didn't like her, and he said, "She's just a dancer who made good," and I've got that as a driver all the way through in my life. So that's my one line.
So, I liked today. I liked what we discussed today. I think there's
Yeah,
a
good
lot more
stuff.
to.
Good stuff.
I
Good,
know, I get
you know,
excited, and
yeah,
I'm definitely, I reflect with quotes often because it helps structure my mind, but also keeps me
yeah.
free flowing, which I love.
You know, I'll tell you, when I was on the Burnett show, the people who were the principals on the Burnett show, the Harvey Kormans and the Tim Conways and Carol Burnett, those three in particular, whenever something was particularly funny, because that's what they were up to, and they discovered it because they were doing things where they were actually inventive and creative and in their sketches and so on like that. And so one of them would go, "Good stuff."
Yeah,
So it's a high thing when you say good stuff.
let's just pause on your history with dancing. For
Uh,
those who don't know, you
uh,
need to Google John because it's amazing. And you are living your life like a work of art. It is absolutely inspiring to me because we don't just have good dialogue. We are authentically connecting. We're building something that's bigger than ourselves, but
yep.
yet we honor where we each are at the table and stage in life. It is so inspiring. So thank you. I just can't. It's
Well,
I,
I got to tell you, when I am with you, the inspiration that I get out of it, inspiration is such an interesting word. It means filled with the breath of God. And I am inspired being around you, and I am looking at, forget the bag of meat that we walk around in. I'm looking at me at your age with your spirit. And so I feel like I'm feeling like I'm getting a second shot at looking at myself in life when I'm around you. And it's just great. It is just great.
That's a high compliment. Well, I'm gonna leave us with a quote from last week on our spine
Okay.
Spartan mindset.
Okay.
Let he who merits the palm possess it.
Possess it. Exactly. Let he who merits the palm. Listen, you're not going to get there on your good looks. You're
That's
going to
true.
get there on merit. So he who merits, and he, she, you know, the pronoun that merits the palm
Yeah.
possesses it, bears it.
So as ever, thank you for being
Oh,
a lifelong learner, sharing space with me, building something that is quite epic. I'll be honest. So I'm excited.
well, thank you, thank you, thank you for the honor and the privilege of actually being able to be with the spirit of someone who is inspiring. So, good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, my darling. Bye bye.
Bye.